Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome in the President of the Providence Teachers Union. She's been here before, Mary Beth Calabro. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it because it's been quite the week. Started off with a little school vacation.
Brief.
The brief school vacation, but what we've seen in the aftermath of Florida. There's been, as we know, a number of school shootings this year alone, but there seems to be an even increased call for something to be done. We've seen the president come out and say that he believes teachers should be armed. What's the conversation you're having with your membership right now?
The conversation is that we have to focus on the absurdity of the statement, and I don't believe that arming teachers is the best line of defense in keeping our children safe. We have a significantly difficult job to do to begin with, and I don't think walking around with a gun strapped to my leg or strapped to my waist is going to make my job any easier. Our first and foremost important task is to keep and ensure the safety of our children, and that starts with at the ground with ensuring that we have fireproof, bulletproof doors, windows, locks on the doors that work, keys that work in the doors with the locks. So there are some very fundamental things that can happen from the onset before we talk about arming teachers. I've spoken to hundreds of teachers over the past week, and everyone from teachers who own guns for personal gaming, etc., game shooting, etc., to people who have either been in the military or continuing in the military, and not one person has said, "Yes, give me a gun. I can't wait to show up at school with a gun on Monday."
So you talk about the measures that they are looking for. Does it vary by school to school? Do you hear from teachers that say there's several classrooms where the doors don't lock properly? We have concerns about these safety measures as they currently exist. Is there a variance amongst schools as to how sort of beefed up they are security-wise?
Yeah, I think that there is. I think that is part and parcel of the fact that we have a wide range of schools at different ages, and that were built at different ages. We also have, and this is not a secret, I've talked about this before, how we have schools that are in disrepair. And so, when the normal course of business is happening and we're teaching kids, we're not thinking about, is the door locked, is the screen bulletproof? We don't think about those things because we're doing what we're trained to do, which is teach. So yes, there are varying degrees of safety within our schools, within our system, within our state, within our country. And I think that we need to get together and come together unified as teachers and parents and management, and talk about the best ways to secure our children so that they can come to school to learn, which is the purpose of schools.
And we earlier this week, Mary Beth, had Representative Greg Amorian, who's going to be putting forth a couple pieces of legislation. The second of which we discussed before I go back to the first was reimbursing schools under this proposal by the governor for school rehabilitation. Does that seem like a no-brainer? Do you think that this will pass?
I hope it will pass. I pray it will pass. To me, it's a no-brainer. To the teachers who are in these buildings that are crumbling, and the parents of these children who are in buildings that are crumbling and in disrepair, it seems to be a no-brainer. At the end of the day, I can't imagine being in the thought process of all of the legislators, but my hope would be that there would be enough behind this process that they would get on board and support fixing our schools.
And what about his proposal, school resource officers in every school, not just middle schools and high schools? He talked about the cost perspective. Do elementary schools need school resource officers?
I can tell you that there are times and places that they may be necessary, and I think that in order to have a holistic approach to what's going on in this country and in terms of school shootings, that should be a consideration. And above and beyond that, there needs to be holistic training for educators, staff members, administrators on mental health issues and what red flags we can look for in terms of students who are in crisis, and then what to do about it. And we don't currently have that. It doesn't exist right now. We don't have full-time social workers, school psychologists, guidance counselors, elementary through high. We don't have processes and procedures in place for identification of children in crisis or who have maybe shown their hand, like this young man did in Florida.
And you talk about there's going to be that red flag legislation introduced, but that's community-wide. That's just not focused on schools.
No, exactly.
Is there concern amongst teachers when they have concerns about a particular student? And you just pointed out they're just not getting the resources that they need. They say, this student is troubled. I have concerns that they might harm themselves or harm others. Talk about if a student makes a threat at school, and it might not be, I'm going to shoot up the school, but there's a threat there. What's the process that they go through before being allowed back into the school after some sort of, again, indication that there could be an issue?
So it depends upon what the issue would be, but we have protocols, processes in place for students who are considering harming themselves or others, those who have the hit lists of the, years ago, and those who talk about, starting fires or shooting or whatever the case may be. And in middle and high school, there is a concerted effort with guidance counselors and support staff, nurses, and then it goes through the chain of command. We either call a rescue or an ambulance, and then hopefully they get the services that they so desperately need. Elementary, it's a little trickier because we don't have guidance counselors in every school. So it's incumbent upon the school nurse teacher or the administrator to understand and realize these red flags and work with outside agencies, which we have partnered with because we have such a lack of support staff in that area.
And so keeping students safe, your job also with teaching the students and their concerns as well. We just saw today, students from classical walked to the State House. How have teachers been dealing with students post these incidents that have fears, have concerns, as they're trying to teach and do their job when you have a young population that might be really fearful?
And they are fearful, and there's so much to be fearful about in this day and age. We have a lot of students who fear ICE and the DACA and legislation, and we have students now who are obviously fearful of large mass shootings in schools, and it's difficult for us because it's hard for adults to grapple with the issue to begin with. We can't fathom it, understand it, and we don't know how to explain it. So, our best bet is to remain empathetic and try to utilize the tools that are around us, the support systems that we have, outside agencies, community partners, to come in and have real conversations with kids. And those conversations obviously would be different depending upon the age of the child.
And we just saw today in Cranston, the City Council President is going to be putting forth a proposal in Cranston for metal detectors in schools, lock boxes for guns, for people who are legally allowed to carry. Again, this is the Republican head of the Cranston City Council. Metal detectors, lock boxes, what's your response? I think there are other things that we can do prior to getting to that, police state, if you will. I think that, if we could provide more supports for our students in schools and supports for our families who are in crisis and may not know how to deal with a child who's exhibiting red flags or is journaling like that young man did, or the young woman whose grandmother turned her in. Those are things that we are right here, right now, low cost, high impact things that we can do. As for metal detectors, I think it's a hefty price tag, and I don't think you can put a price tag on children's safety. But I think it like I said before, it needs to be holistic. It can't be a one-off. Let's do metal detectors and everybody's going to be safe. That's not. It's more global than that. We have a lot of work to do. And do these conversations really, as you mentioned, this is Cranston, your Providence, how many of them take place really at the district level, and how many really take place at the statewide?
Well, I can attest to the fact that the superintendent and I have had several conversations along with Joe DePina, our chief operating officer, about safety and security, and we have an emergency preparedness document that covers everything from plane crashes to active shooters. So we are hyper vigilant as a group in terms of making sure and ensuring the safety and security of our students. We've done lockdown drills over the past week. Over the past couple of days since the shooting. We've reinforced the process and procedures for evacuation drills, etc. So they're being extremely proactive in the district. But I do think that it's a statewide issue, and I think that we would be best served to all come together and get on the same page in terms of what we can do. Again, low cost to the extent that we can, because we're all in fiscal dire straits, but with the most impact to ensure the safety of our children.
We talk about the psychological stress on students, the psychological stress on teachers. We've seen since these incidents these heroic acts of these educators, these teachers who put themselves to save children's lives. And
Yes.
I mean, what do you hear from the teachers in terms of this? They're there to be educators, and now they're faced with this daunting possibility that they're also supposed to be the safeguards of these students in these events.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've read a couple of things over the past couple of days online about conversations that have been had in high school classrooms about kids saying, "Oh, you don't have to protect us. It's not your job to protect us." But teachers, we're in the business of being people, right? This is the people relationship business, and so that's what we do. We're protective of our children. We're overprotective of our children. We want what's best for our children. So there is a lot of stress involved with that. And I think that, providing services, and we have, employee assistance programs so that teachers can talk about and talk through their questions, their concerns, their stressors, any triggers that they may be having. And we have realized an uptick in anxiety and other mental health issues that are related to mass shootings like this.
Well, I wanted to get your perspective again here following what we've seen, not just from last week, but the response that we've seen from the president as well. But the last time I saw you, Mary Beth, was up at City Hall, taking on the mayor there for the contract with the teachers. What's the next steps there?
Actually, the mayor reached out to me this week, and I had contacted him back, and he and I are going to sit down this coming week and try to build back a bridge. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Again, because as what he had put forth was 0-0 for pay raises. What was the 3 years?
0-0 and maybe 0.5, I believe.
So do we see room for compromise?
Again, I've always been ready to negotiate and willing to negotiate. We're not immune to the fact that there is a budget deficit in the city, and we get that. We're not asking for 5, 10, and 15% either. So there needs to be a reasonable belief on the other side that we have earned this pay raise and a pay raise, and we're basically looking for equity. So as the leader of the city, in my mind's eye anyway, as a leader of my union, I think about contracts that I have coming up in the budget season, and I think about all these people need to get paid, so I have this bucket of money, and that doesn't seem to have happened. We seem to have been left off of the thought process. So they knew they had to pay the firefighters, they knew they had to pay the police, and they knew they had to pay 1033. He should have known, and I'm sure he did, because he sat next to me writing, signing the last contract, that we were having a contract coming up as well. So I think he should have been better served to disperse the money that he had at his discretion a little more equitably.
And having been there at the rally before the state of the city, one of the points that the teachers have been making is the mayor's been touting that the city's in such great fiscal condition.
January 3rd, he said they have a $5.4 million surplus, and January 16th, they got nothing. For us, anyway. They have nothing for teachers. And, it's not lost on my membership that on January 17th, him in the position of acting as the board, and he is the chair of the Board for Achievement First, he put forth a resolution for them to engage in the purchase of $3.5 million piece of property on Westminster Street, diagonally across from 2 schools that are basically crumbling around him. And to the loss of about $35 million to the district in terms of student aid.
Can't really
if it walks
have
like
it
a
both.
duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
So when he says that the city's in good fiscal standing,
Mm-hmm.
do you think, and as you point out, and then saying that there's no money for the teachers, do you think the city's in good financial standing?
I do believe that he did have a surplus, and I do believe that he bucketed off portions of that surplus to different places. And I also believe in my heart of hearts that Providence teachers weren't a priority for those buckets.
Well, we'll see what happens moving forward. You're meeting with the mayor next week. I appreciate your taking the time to come in here after a very tumultuous week to talk right to the viewers about the state of the teachers here in Providence. So Mary Beth, hopefully we'll talk soon. I'll let you go around the corner. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Mary Beth Calabro, the president of the Providence Teachers Union, wanted her in here this week, as we've seen following Florida from President Donald Trump talking about arming teachers. We've also seen proposals around the state for increased school safety measures. Talked with her a little bit about some legislative proposals and how she plans to act moving forward. So appreciate Mary Beth taking the time to come into the studio. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with our next guest here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome my next guest here into the studio. He's a senior at Bryant University. Jacob Lutan, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. You are the organizer of Bryant's Northeast Entrepreneur Conference taking place on March 3rd, 7th annual.
Absolutely.
And have you been working on this since freshman year?
I actually haven't. This is my first year on the team, and I have a team of 9 students that I've been working with to put on this conference throughout the year, and it's been a great experience so far.
Fantastic. Well, just want to say, you've got Steve Forbes coming.
Yeah, we're super excited to have him. He's the featured speaker in a lineup of 14 speakers that we're bringing to campus in an event that's spanning across the entire New England region, bringing in students from everywhere. So we're super excited to have him.
So he's headlining Craig Dubitsky with EOS, those little round lip glosses. So you're going to be talking with various entrepreneurs. When you were putting together the speaker program, how did you decide, when you said we need to have these people here to really talk about entrepreneurship, how did you come up with that group that you reached out to?
Something so important to me, because I'm an accounting major at Bryant and not an entrepreneurship major, is to make sure that we have a conference that's applicable across so many industries and majors so we can reach as many students as possible. So when I was creating the lineup, I really wanted to search for a different caliber of speakers throughout so many different industries that we could target and help every single major create their own personal definition of entrepreneurship to apply to their career.
And what are you looking to get out of the conference? You've been immersed in it. You've planned it. You're going to be there that day. It's probably going to be like your wedding, right? Like, you're too young to actually know this. But you're going to be involved making sure that it goes out without a hitch. But what do you think students really are looking to learn, as you said, from this diverse group? Again, that real-world application.
I can only hope that every student that comes in can actually take away something from the conference that helps them redefine their view of what entrepreneurship is, because we aren't saying that you need to create your own business to be an entrepreneur. We're saying that you can be entrepreneurial in any major or career that you may be pursuing, and that's the most important point that I want people to take away.
Aha, so giving them that skill set to apply to whatever it is that they're looking to do, and it's open to the public as well.
Absolutely, there are tickets for the public, students across the New England region, as well as Bryant students and faculty as well.
So what are you looking to hear from Steve Forbes?
So he's actually going to be talking about leadership lessons, and so he's going to be running through leaders throughout time, including Julius Caesar, through Steve Jobs up to Mark Zuckerberg, connecting all the dots for us to round out a day where people can learn from all the entrepreneurs.
That's fantastic to get that historical perspective with Steve Forbes. And then what's Craig Dubitsky going to talk about?
Craig Dubitsky, he has such an interesting view on how personal care should actually it should be innovated, because people don't want to be ingesting chemicals, and Craig does such a great job through his Hello products and EOS lip balm to show how he's redefining personal home care through his outlook on the industry.
Very good. And as you said, not an entrepreneur major, you're an accounting major. So tell us about your 4 years at Bryant. When you came as a freshman, was it everything you expected?
Absolutely, and more. Bryant made so many promises during my tours at the university, and they've managed to keep all of those promises through all of the diverse curriculums where we have so much group work ingrained into that curriculum. They've really been inspiring all students to excel through those programs, and it's been a great experience.
Okay, so tell viewers, you already kind of have your career, well, the start of it kind of mapped out. What are the next steps?
So I'm actually going to be attending graduate school at Bryant University till December, and then I'm excited to be joining a team at Deloitte to audit startup tech clients in San Francisco.
So how much would you say, I mean, you're balancing your schoolwork with running this conference, which must be like another full-time job. How many hours a week have you been spending putting this conference together?
It all blends together at some point, but it's all about the experience.
Yep.
And so even though we may be putting in hours over our schoolwork, maintaining that balance is important, but making sure that we have a conference that all students can feel comfortable coming to learn about entrepreneurship and leadership is the most important thing.
So you've got the student vote, and you've got students showing up for it. What would you say to people who are listening today saying, this might sound interesting, who might be interested to go to this conference?
I'd say that although when I say students, I do mean college students, it's important to remember that we're all students of leadership through our careers. And students from across the community will be able to come and take away something. This isn't just for college students.
Okay, it's more, it's broader. Who are some of your business heroes?
Some of my business heroes, I really look to Steve Jobs, just his way of thinking and how he managed teams. Everybody respected him, yet people did have different views about him, and that's, I think, really important to have that dichotomy in how you do lead.
And how do you feel, I mean, you've got your own perspective, but seniors graduating into this very tumultuous world right now. I mean, what are students' concerns as they go out into the world, being armed with that undergraduate degree from a business perspective, entrepreneurial perspective? What are the opportunities and challenges that students are facing right now? I
mean, for Bryant students, we have a lot of business majors coming out of school, as well as liberal arts majors that minor in a business as well. Mm-hmm. And to be able to understand finance and accounting and basic elements of business is so important. And that's something that Bryant prepares us to do going out into the world so we can assess the challenges coming and learn how to react to them.
And so what are the opportunities you see moving forward? You're going to get your graduate degree, you're going to head out to San Francisco. What are you ultimately looking to pursue?
I mean, over my time in San Francisco when I was interning with Deloitte, I got a lot of exposure to the startup tech space, and to be able to stay in that space and really grow with it as all of the startups do grow in San Francisco, that's something that's really special to me, and I was really happy to be a part of it.
Very good. And as you said, you've got a team that's working on this conference that's going to be on March 3rd, and we'll be sure to have that link up as well. Any shout-outs you'd like to give to folks while you're in here?
The entire Be Unique team deserves a shout-out. They've been doing a great job throughout this entire time, as well as the Bryant Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization and their e-board. They've been very supportive, as well as Lou Mazzucchelli, our advisor. So thank you so much.
I think it was Lou who put us in touch.
Absolutely.
It's all about connections. Now, big important question. Spring break. Are you going away?
I am. Montego Bay in Jamaica is calling my name in a week or so.
Very good, to Montego Bay. After the conference is done, you'll take a big, deep breath and go, after you have Steve Forbes, Craig Dubitsky, and 14 speakers in total.
Absolutely.
Anyone else, any other names that we might know, any local? Are we talking all national folks here?
All folks with national brands. They might not be known to the community, but some of their products have been very influential in equitable sourcing, as well as we have a Vine superstar, Eric Dunn, coming in. Brandale Randolph, a social entrepreneur dedicating his life to stopping juvenile delinquency. And just so many more entrepreneurs and leaders that we're bringing to the students. We couldn't be more excited to have everybody come to the conference.
A Vine superstar. Tell me more. I mean, I might be showing my age here, but what's the claim to fame?
So his name's Eric Dunn, and he, Vine, as you know, is 6-second media clips. So he's going to be coming to talk about how you can brand yourself in a digital age and how you need to brand yourself on social media in entrepreneurship. His claim to fame, he just puts out great content, which is comedic, but also touches on various issues that affect us all throughout.
So what do you see? You're a student right now. I've got a few years on you. What are the social media channels that students of the college age are using? Is it mostly Instagram? Is Snapchat and Vine? I mean, where does that fit in? Give us the sense of what students are using most.
Mm-hmm. Instagram is definitely up there, as well as Snapchat, just giving people the ability to communicate with each other and update minute to minute by what people are doing in life. It's something that we really take to in my generation, as well as just something that will be implemented moving forward for everybody.
And Facebook maybe not so much. Is that for older folks?
Not necessarily. Still utilized, but we're moving to other platforms. So.
And of course, it's going to be interesting moving forward to see what's next, because it's hard to even conceptualize what that could be. But you know, do students face that challenge that folks using social media feel a lot of trying to connect with other people versus, you know, doing online communication versus in-person communication?
It is all about finding that balance, and that's something very important to stress. But as students move through their college curriculum and move into the real world with their careers, we get a lot of exposure about how we should actually communicate on social media to make sure that we're fostering those connections online as well as in the real world.
And what would you say if there are younger folks or parents watching right now and students who are thinking of Bryant University? What would you want to tell them about your time at Bryant?
I would just say that Bryant really has kept all of its promises that it made me, and a lot of people go on college tours and they say all of these things, but Bryant was really true to their word. In my time at Bryant, they actually erected new buildings. The Academic Innovation Center, it's a beautiful building that we use to go and innovate in. We actually had a brainstorming session the other day for our club, so it's just an unbelievable space, so many beautiful buildings and so many great professors that we learn from.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today, because you're getting down to the stretch. What are the final details? What are the final to-do list that you have before the conference?
We have all of the materials coming in this week, and the team's going to be working hard to stuff folders, arrange lanyards, and sell as many students at Bryant and beyond to come to this conference.
Are we going to see some social media buzz around this as it gets closer?
Absolutely.
And of course, your appearance here on GoLocal will be part of that.
Of course.
But I appreciate your taking the time to come in today, because it's always great to get local college students to come in, tell us about their experience, and especially when you can connect what's going on with the college with what's going on with the community. So Jacob Lutan, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
let you go back up to the college on the hill in Smithfield there. So I'll let you around the corner and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much. Okay, Jacob Lutan with Bryant University, a senior, is the basically head honcho putting together the New England Northeast Entrepreneurial Conference taking place on March 3rd. Steve Forbes is going to be the culminating speaker, as Jacob mentioned, talking about leadership throughout history. Now, it's just not for students, it's open to the public as well. It was great to have the student perspective here in studio at GoLocal. So be sure to check out more on GoLocalProv.com moving forward this weekend. We've got news stories up this afternoon. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter as well. But we'll be back here in studio on Monday with Business Mondays with Josh Fenton. And of course, Molly O'Brien at 3 o'clock with All Things Lifestyle. I'll be up at the State House next Thursday. We look forward to seeing everyone. We appreciate your watching. We appreciate your feedback. We'll see you next week. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.